Hello and welcome to the Sip and Grow with Booqii podcast. SIP is an acronym and it stands for Sobriety, Inspiration, Personal and Professional Growth. And of course, Booqii is my name and it's a short form of my full name, which is Adebukola. And interestingly, I'm wearing an attire today that also carries my name, my Oriki. For those who are Nigerians, my Oriki is Arike, and I've been gifted this Nigerian outfit by my friend, and I just thought it would be a good way to introduce this podcast and introduce myself to you guys, and I hope you like it. Now, back to the podcast. So, what is this podcast about? It's about all things sobriety, inspiration, personal, and professional growth. So, why this podcast? Now, personally, I have been on the journey of sobriety, and it's a journey that I've been on just I guess by choice. By sobriety I mean in terms of alcohol, because sobriety does mean so many different things to different people, and not just alcohol. Obviously some people go sober from drugs, some people go sober from alcohol, and sobriety could just been solemn, or just even having solitude or personal time, clear-headedness, whatever word you want to use to describe it. And that's what sobriety is to me, right? And beyond alcohol, now I've never been an alcohol drinker, and I've just had that lifestyle of not drinking alcohol. But beyond that, one of the other things I've considered even in recent times is wellness, right? And that ties into sobriety. Now, that's the one aspect of one of the things that we would be looking to discuss on this podcast. Now, outside of sobriety, inspiration. I find that personally, I consume a lot of inspirational content. And in the spaces I've been in the conversations I've had with people individually, I learn more about people, their personal experiences, things that have influenced their choices in life, choices of career, businesses, and things like that. And those are things that have helped me, and personally. And in the process of all these conversations with individuals, it then struck my mind that, well, why can't we share these conversations with other people, right? Why can't we have more reach for these conversations? And another aspect, again, or something that inspires me a lot, is growth. I like watching myself grow or evolve. I have been different things and I'm still evolving, I'm still growing. And I've also watched other people grow, and it's something that has always been inspirational to me. So, hence the idea. I thought, okay, you know what? All these aspects of my life, yes, they may seem in some way multifaceted, but I thought, okay, is there a way to bring this together in a podcast and have those conversations with people, and they get the opportunity to share the personal experiences with, my audience, with myself, and obviously the audience as well, right? And that's the whole, I guess, story behind why this podcast. Now, but in terms of the sobriety aspect, I'll probably go back on that a little bit again. Within the sober society, as I like to call it, right, I have met people that maybe for one reason or another, they've made a 360 U-turn in terms of their lifestyle choices, right? And with regards to alcohol specifically. And sometimes there's stories that, in some instances are emotional. In some instances, they're very personal. And I find those stories quite enlightening, to be honest, because I never had that personal experience of, being an excessive alcohol consumer and then, turning back. Yeah. And I just feel strongly that these conversations would help inspire other people, would impact them, and hopefully will help them on their journey towards becoming the best versions of themselves, which is a journey that, I believe we all should be on. Right. So what would you expect from this podcast? I think essentially informal conversations, not too formal, just basically me having a chat with my guests. What would you expect? You would expect, for the sober curious, I guess, you would expect hearing people's sobriety stories. For the person who's seeking their next level, you would expect hearing someone's journey in terms of how they transitioned from one career path to another. You would expect to hear things around how people have started out as something else and they've ended up, doing other things, more interesting things in their career. And I think you would also expect um, what I'll call, I guess, a multiple dimension or multi-dimensional aspect of what people do, which I find personally fascinating. Now, one of my guests that I got to sit down with, for example, studied to become a social worker, and then fast forward, you know, she's now a leader and in the technology space, right, and supporting women in technology specifically. Yeah, there's been just a lot of these stories that I feel a need to share, and of course, in that process, learning and growing myself. Yeah, so that's about the podcast. As you know, this is my first podcast, so I'm quite new to this. And yeah, just support where you can, and I look forward to sharing the episodes with you as you know as they become available.